If you run a service-based business, there's a good chance that you have an operational spreadsheet that is holding everything together. In this spreadsheet, you track clients, jobs, quotes, and invoices. And the truth is that the spreadsheet worked extremely well in the beginning. You built it yourself, and you know exactly what each column means. But there's a subtle change taking place. You're still updating it, but your business no longer feels controlled by it. Instead, it feels like you are holding the whole business together manually. There's a common belief amongst business owners that the reason this is happening is due to the tool, the actual spreadsheet. They think they need a better tool and start looking for a CRM, a project management system, automations, and of course AI. The belief is simple. If the spreadsheet is struggling, the solution must be better software. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Your spreadsheet isn't failing because it is missing AI. It is failing because it was never a system in the first place. It's currently just a container for information. And AI can't turn a container into a system. This is because a real system is not defined by software, it's defined by structure. So in this video, I want to show you something that no one else is talking about in this AI-crazed world, and that is what a real operational system actually consists of. There are 5 things that every system has, and once you see them, you'll start realizing why your spreadsheet feels like so much work, and why simply adding AI to the mix won't fix the problem. My name's Adrian, and I help service-based businesses replace messy spreadsheets with AI-powered systems, starting with process clarity, not just tools. I've learned this over the last 20 years by designing and running operational systems across a variety of service businesses, from financial services to web development to crisis response operations. And across these environments, I've seen the same pattern over and over again. Systems that work when things are small often break when the business grows. I've seen what actually fails at scale. And more importantly, I've learned how to design systems that don't. Point 1. Systems have defined stages. The first thing that every system has is defined stages, and work moves through these clearly understood states in the process. Think about almost any service business. A job doesn't just appear, then disappear. It moves through these stages. An example could be a lead becomes a quote becomes a booked job becomes work in progress then becomes complete. Completed work gets invoiced, and an invoice eventually gets paid. These are the stages, and they are important because stages define where the work is right now. Without them, everything becomes blurred. Many spreadsheets try to represent these stages with columns. You might have columns like quote sent, deposit paid, job date, invoice sent, and payment received. But those columns don't actually create stages. They just store the information. A real system defines a single current state. The job is quoted, scheduled, in progress, or completed. That clarity changes how decisions get made. Stages answer the following most important operational questions. Where is this piece of work in the process? If your system cannot answer that immediately, it isn't actually managing the work. It's just recording pieces of it. But knowing the stages alone is not enough, because the second thing a real system needs is accountability. Point number 2, systems assign ownership. Every step in a real system has someone responsible for it. Ownership is not optional. Without ownership, work just floats. Let's say a quote has been sent to a client. In a spreadsheet, the quote simply exists in a row. But in a system, the question becomes, who owns the next step? Is someone responsible for the follow-up? Or is everyone assuming someone else is doing it? This is one of the biggest hidden weaknesses of a spreadsheet-driven operation. Spreadsheets track information, but they rarely track responsibility. So tasks sit in a row on a spreadsheet waiting for someone to notice them. And when a business grows, those rows become invisible. A real system forces clarity. Every stage has an owner. Every owner knows what they are responsible for to get the work to move forward. Without that clarity, work doesn't flow. It accumulates into chaos. Now, once ownership is clear, the next question becomes even more important. What actually moves work forward? Point 3, systems define transition. A system isn't just a list of stages. It defines how work moves between them. These are called transitions. Examples of these are, when a quote gets accepted, the job becomes scheduled. When the job is complete, an invoice is created. When the payment is received, the job is closed. These transitions are not random. The transitions follow rules. Most spreadsheet systems rely on manual interpretation. You open the file, you scan the rows, you decide what to do next. But a real system defines those steps in advance. The process becomes predictable. Everyone understands what happens next. When transitions are unclear, the work slows down. When transitions are defined, the work flows seamlessly. That's the difference between tracking activity and running a system. Now for the fourth component is where many people assume AI becomes necessary, but it actually starts much earlier. Point 4. Systems trigger actions. In a well-designed system, actions trigger other actions. When something happens, the next step follows naturally. Here is an example. When a quote is sent, a follow-up reminder is scheduled. When a job is complete, an invoice is created. And when an invoice is unpaid, a reminder is sent. These triggers remove the need for constant monitoring. The process moves forward automatically. In a spreadsheet-driven business, these triggers don't exist. Instead, the owner performs them manually. The owner needs to remember to send the follow-up. The owner needs to remember to check if the payment was received. The owner needs to confirm the booking. This all means that the business depends on the owner's memory. Triggers are the bridge between process and automation, but they only work when the underlying process is clear. This is exactly why AI cannot fix an unclear system. AI needs defined triggers. Without them, it has nothing reliable to automate. But there is one final piece that separates a real-world system from a spreadsheet. And this one becomes extremely important as a business grows. Point 5. Systems leave a trail. A real operational system always leaves a trail. It shows what happened, when it happened, and who did it. In high-stake environments, this is called an audit trail. But every service business will benefit from the same idea because history matters. Imagine a client calling about a job. In a spreadsheet, you might see a current row, but you won't necessarily see the story. You won't see what was quoted, you won't see who approved it, and you won't see when it was changed. The context disappears, but in a proper system, that history is kept intact. This isn't about bureaucracy, it's about clarity. Because when the system records the story of the work, the business stops relying on memory, and that is when operations start becoming reliable. Spreadsheets are incredibly useful tools. They're flexible, they're quick to build, and for many businesses, they are perfect when starting out. But spreadsheets were never designed to be operational systems. They were designed to store information. They don't define processes, they don't assign responsibility, they don't enforce transitions, they don't trigger actions, and they don't preserve the full history of what has happened. Those things come from system design, not software. And that's the reason AI alone won't fix spreadsheet chaos. Because AI can accelerate a process, but it can't invent one. When the process becomes clear first, everything changes. Software becomes easier to choose, automations become reliable, and AI finally has something meaningful to work with. In the next video, I want to explore what actually happens in a business before that transition takes place. The point where spreadsheets start to quietly break down, often before the owner fully realizes it. Because recognizing that moment is what tells you it's time to start building a real system. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And always remember, process first.